Imagine walking outside one night and looking up, not into a dark, empty sky, but into a glowing halo stretching from horizon to horizon. Giant shimmering bands of ice and rock circling above the planet, glowing softly in the moonlight. That's what Earth would look like if it had rings like Saturn. At first glance, that sounds beautiful, but let's be honest, like everything in space, it would be both breathtaking and terrifying. Because Earth having rings isn't just about getting a better Instagram sky, it would completely reshape life on our planet. To start, those rings would likely have formed from something catastrophic. Maybe a Mars-sized body smashed into Earth billions of years ago, like the one that gave us the moon, but instead of coalescing into one satellite, the debris stayed trapped inside Earth's Roche limit, where gravity tears apart anything trying to clump together. Over time, that debris would flatten into shimmering bands of ice, dust, and rock. From the ground, the view would depend on where you live. Near the equator, the rings would cut straight across the sky like a bright glowing belt. From the poles, you'd barely see them, just a faint line along the horizon. The closer to the equator you are, the more impossible it would be to ignore them. Imagine seeing a permanent sunrise and sunset on the horizon, light scattering through the rings, painting the sky in soft gold and silver arcs. You'd never have a truly dark night again. Cities like Quito or Nairobi would live under a perpetual cosmic halo. But beauty comes with chaos. Those rings would reflect sunlight back to Earth, changing our climate dramatically. Nights would be brighter, ruining sleep for nocturnal animals, confusing migration patterns, and possibly even warming parts of the planet. Imagine polar winters slightly less cold, but equatorial days becoming unbearable as more sunlight bounces down. And then there's the shadow. The rings wouldn't just reflect light, they'd also cast huge sweeping shadows across the planet. Every day, as Earth rotates, these shadows would glide across continents like dark bands. Some areas would have sudden twilight at noon, while others might never experience total sunlight. Farmers would have to plan crops based on ring shadows. We'd probably have calendars not for months, but for light cycles, depending on how the rings move relative to the sun. The night sky itself would never be the same. Astronomers would love and hate it. On one hand, you'd have the most magnificent celestial show imaginable. On the other, good luck seeing distant galaxies or faint stars through a glowing wall of dust above your head. The Milky Way might become invisible to most of humanity. Space telescopes would need to orbit far beyond the rings just to get a clear view of the universe. And speaking of orbit, launching rockets? A nightmare. Humanity's path to space would be filled with deadly debris. A single pebble-sized rock traveling at several kilometers per second could destroy a spacecraft instantly. To reach orbit, rockets would need to thread through gaps between the ring planes, carefully calculated launch windows where it's safe to pass. The International Space Station probably wouldn't exist. It'd be shredded by ring particles within hours. But even if we solved those problems, the rings themselves would slowly evolve.